Well, welcome to another of these in conversation interview sessions as part of the business and finance stream. And it's a pleasure to welcome my a new friend that I've made through Stronger 2021, Ben Towers, as we spend a bit of time with him, gleaning some fresh insights and learnings from Ben's enormous experience in business and as an entrepreneur. And if you haven't managed to catch his bio, Ben, at 22 years old, was described as one of the most influential entrepreneurs on the planet. He started a business at age 11, had invested in disruptive startups, advised governments and PLCs, and is now co-founder of Tahora.com. And he's on the mission to connect his generation and to tackle ill mental health. So it's a real pleasure, Ben, to welcome you onto this session today, and welcome to you who may be watching us now live or watching later. It's great to have you all with us as well. So Ben, great to have you. Welcome. Where are you tuning in from today?
Yes, I'm tuning in over just from West London. Just able to join in. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's such a time now where I think now is such a time for entrepreneurs to think about business in such a fresh way now because of all what's gone on over the last year and so on. So I'm very excited to be having this chat.
This is good. Just before we get into it, Ben, I'd love to whether you could share a little bit about during lockdown and any Netflix series you got into or books you've been reading.
I made it lockdown for me has been ridiculously busy. So we raised $1 million for Tahora literally at the start of the last lockdown, and during the first lockdown. So it meant that at the time when I was thinking, I'm going to have a bit of break, be able to do some more things. It was then recruiting, hiring, selling, and building, and so on. So we've got it, ridiculous. I suppose the thing that I have managed to do more of during lockdown, actually, which has been quite interesting, is doing more just walks. Either walks with friends or walks on my own, with my headphones on. And I think that has actually probably been one of my biggest things coming out of lockdown. It's been quite interesting because I think I lost the value of just spending that alone time and just being able to do that. And sometimes that would be just myself on my own walking. Sometimes it'd be more walking along with tents, playing worship music and just reflecting. It varies, but I think it's something that I'd missed out or I didn't really do enough of, which I've managed to kickstart. I'm sure a lot of people are the same because I think all we can do now is walks. But yeah.
That's good. I can picture it because Ben, you're just around not too far from where we're based here in West London, and the Thames is just there. You mentioned that you go along for walks down by the river. Would that be your go-to, more sort of that area, or the other way into town? Which way would you go on those reflective walks?
Usually go along to Hammersmith, and then depends which way I go. Either go Putney direction, or if I'm feeling adventurous, a couple of times I've gone to Richmond and back, which is then that's a day. But sometimes after you've had a full hectic week, it's you know what, this Saturday I'm just going to put on my headphones, just going to walk. It's a 6 hour, it's a ridiculously long walk, but you just forget about it. It's such a beautiful, now it's a bit cold, but especially during the last lockdown, it was ridiculously hot. You're just walking along, looking at the Thames. It's such an era of beauty. It's been amazing.
It's a long Spotify playlist there on that 6 hour walk. It's great. Look, hey Ben, love to think about calling and direction as a sort of heading. And just as we get into that, just to hear from your experience and how you got into what you're doing today. But tell us a bit about your passion for business and where did it all start?
Yeah, so my passion for business actually started when I was 11 years old. And it started quite interesting because when I didn't ever intend to start a company. It was never really I'm going to sit down, make a business plan and start a business. It was always a lot more softer than that. It was actually my mum's friends who is an author in the church we were at in Kent. And she was just like, look, you're young, you get tech, you get that side of things. Can you build me a website? And so that was then my opportunity to then give it a go. And unless I was never really given that opportunity, would I start a company? Probably, but it wouldn't have been at that age. I think that really made me have that kickstart that I needed. So then I started out building this website for her, built it. It's super basic. She still has it online now, which is crazy, but did that. And at the end of it, she then gave me £50. And when you're 11 and someone gives you £50, you're thinking, this is brilliant. I was like, straight to the sweet shop. I was spending it. I was like thinking I'm the richest 11-year-old on the planet. I was so excited. It's like Christmas had come early. But then I was like, oh, now I want to do more. And it almost got me hungry for how the excitement of doing that and be able to work with people. And obviously, yes, I think at that age, money was a thing. Like, obviously, when you're so young, you're like, I'm at work, this is just crazy. But over time, that dropped a bit more. And it was more just the enjoyment of just loving doing these projects to be able to do that. So that's how that kick-started. Then it was quite a crazy journey then going on. I then joined loads of online freelancing websites. And I did that find work. But I wouldn't tell anybody my age, because you can imagine, would you pay an 11, 12-year-old squeaky voiced boy to build your website? You wouldn't. So had to find sort of interesting ways around that. So I ended up just having like a cartoon picture of me, and it'd say Ben from London or Kent, and that's what it'd be. You would never actually know the age of the person you're working with. And that enabled me to then get a nice bit of portfolio. It was at a point where I must have, over the course of sort of 11 to 12, that sort of year, I must have built well over 20, 25 paid websites during that time. And so that then got me to a situation where I was about 13, and my mum was just like, this is scary. She was like, and so her parents are not in business at all. And so for them, that she was just like, you're in our bedroom making money, doing this thing online. Like, this is quite scary, like what's happening. So I then started getting a bit of business advice and started to reach out to people just to make sure that I was, right. And at that point, when I was 13, was when I would say I actually made it into a company. That's when I remember spending like hours and hours designing invoice templates and making this whole sort of company and what that all meant and so on. And it was at that point where I went down the wrong track. I started to buy like massive desks. I bought like a fax machine. I bought a phone system. But always, because I just thought that's what business was. I thought a business was what we see on telly, which is the Apprentice style, big buildings in Canary Wharf, loads of staff, big receptions. I didn't realize that business in its raw form can be someone in their bedroom building websites, or in some cases, in more recent usage, some people in their bedrooms doing YouTube videos, or people at home just doing something on the side. That is still a business. And I think I just failed to realize that. I just thought it had to be something much different. And I tried to create that, but then couldn't, because obviously didn't have the resources and so on to have this massive office.
I think it's such a great insight to how these things, how that journey began. And I'm just thinking, someone might be listening to this and saying, well, look, you already had a sort of innate wiring for tech side of things, and you're able to build websites. So I'm just wondering how much of, under this heading again, calling and direction, as people may be figuring out where God might be leading them into and what stuff he's calling them into, but how much of it was innate wiring and how much of it was a learnt skill that you had to learn on the way?
For me, like, I wouldn't say that like my gift is business or my gift is that. I think that part is something which you learn from your environment and so on. But for me, I think the natural ability to take a problem, solve it, and that drive to want to always do that drive to, when I wake up, even from a young age, I've always gone, okay, what am I doing today? How am I going to make it better? How am I going to improve on that? And that's something which I don't think is something that I've taught myself that, because it's, from as long as I can remember, I've always had that. Even at school, it was always a big thing. Like, I remember I took apart a printer when I was in primary school because I was just like, oh, I wonder how it works. I was curious. I wanted to know. And that natural curiosity, I think, has then morphed and sparked into this entrepreneurial business sort of thing. And, even now, every single day, I'm like, how can I learn more? How can I be better at it? How can I improve? And for me, that's like the big thing, I suppose, when it comes down to the calling as well, is like, for me, I now feel like, how can I then use these skills that I've got to then make a difference? Which is why, so I used to have a marketing website design company before. I left that when I was 18, and now Tahora, a new company, I was in like, now can I use this knowledge that I'd built up and this expertise to now try and help people and try to change that? And that's, for me, that I'm now feeling like in Tahora, I've got much more of, I feel like I'm more aligned to my calling in that sense. I feel like I'm more aligned to, more satisfied with what I'm able to go to bed knowing what's happening, compared to maybe before, when it was marketing and it was you tell me what to do and I deliver it. And it was very transactional I never really had that chance to sort of make a difference to a certain extent.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Okay, so just slightly linked to that, as you look back, how much would you say your journey has been about God showing up and you pushing forward?
It's been interesting because I suppose if you think about it, first of all, my journey was literally started by God in a way. It was a Christian author from a church who said, give it a go. And so that's always been the thing. I'm always like, whoa, hang on a minute. In what other setting would somebody have a belief on their heart to trust an 11-year-old boy to build their website for their profession or their career? Like that is something which I still can't get my head around. Then there's instances along in my career where I've been in rooms and I've just been like, how did I get here? Like it doesn't make sense. And I think for me, that's which has always like woken me up. And if I'd forget, my mum would sit me down and be like, you were just in the room with the Prime Minister today. Like you were sitting down having coffee one-to-one. Do you realize that doesn't happen to somebody who's like 14, 15? And like, I'd then be like, oh my word, yes. And I think sometimes it's those sort of things which you can get lost, but you realize, that doesn't just happen for no reason. That happens because, for things far greater than just you get an email and you go along. And I think for me, that has always been like, wow, I've got God on my side. I've got that, because to be in a position where I can influence to that level, I was like, that, it's something which I've felt to be grateful for. And I always have to remind myself, never take it for granted at the same time, because I think so easily you can get lost in that. And I think that's where having like parents who can just sit me down and go, well, just remember your calling, remember what you're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, it's so good. Hey, people may be listening to this, they're in their early 20s. Maybe people are just starting out, just determining what their life's going to be about. Sky's the limit. What advice would you say to someone just in that position?
I would say, actually, if I were to reflect, I think I wouldn't be where I am today if I would have forced creating a company in regards to either said, I'm going to start a company and then do it. It was passion led. I started building websites because I enjoyed it. It was on my heart. I just enjoyed that process. And if you look at some of the world's greatest companies, they're always driven by a passionate person. Yes, there are some companies where it's a bit different because it's more of a transactional service where you have to just do it and just grow it. But if you look at some of the real ones that are successful and have good culture and so on, it's always that founder, that leader who has got that passion. And the reason why I say that is because if I was in a situation now, and I was, I'm 22 now, so if I was 22 and didn't have all this other stuff I've been doing up till now for the last like 10 years, the best advice I would want to hear, what I would give myself would be, A, don't force it. Do not try to make something out of nothing, but also give it a go and just try out different things. And that links down to not forcing it, because when you start a company or when you start something like that, it is a life commitment. Like, it is a whole lifestyle commitment. You give up everything to achieve that to a certain extent. And so you need to make sure that you are fully there, you are fully believing it. But also I would say another big thing is the network and the people around you is so, so, so important. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for like amazing personal advisors who I have met in the business world, who could just sit me down and just be like, here's how it works with finances, here's how it works with sales, here's how it works with that. Or, Ben, you just said that, that's ridiculous. Just think about that for a second. And having the people who could just be so frank and honest with you and just say, like, wake up, is so needed especially I think at a younger age where you haven't got the life or world experience of somebody who's been there for a bit longer. You just need to have those around you. And I think you'll be amazed at how many people are prepared to support you and give you that advice if you ask for it. And one thing that always surprises me is how little people would like contact, especially when I had the marketing company, how few designers or developers or account managers, whatever, would contact us and just ask for free advice or ask just to come in and do a couple of days work experience. We'd probably get like a couple a year. And we were like the largest marketing agency in Kent at one point. And like, you just think about that, and people don't ask enough. And I think you need to be able to ask. You need to be able to have that determination to go, I want to get in front of that person. I want to go and do that experience. I want to know. and you'd be surprised how far you'll get.
So rather than waiting for something to land on your lap, if you're passionate about it and want to go after it, then you've really got to do that.
Exactly. And if you're not getting that desire to want to go and reach out to people, then I would argue, are you passionate about it? Because for me, like with Tahora now, it's about community building in the workplace. It's about bringing people together and really supporting mental well-being by building an inclusive environment at work. And I wake up in the morning knowing that my meetings I'm about to have today are hopefully going to help people feel like they're going to work and feel like they're part of something, and not just going to work and just delivering their job and going home. They actually feel their mental health is now much more positively impacted by that. And that is my passion. And I know that is because I'm waking up and I'm excited to do my meetings. And if you're waking up and you're like, oh, I really don't want to do it today, then when you know that's not your passion.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your personal vision statement. What would you say is your sort of goal, your vision, your purpose? In all that you're doing, Tahora, all that you've built so far, it's being driven by something. What is it, would you say, that's driving you?
I think for me, there's like a personal thing of always wanting to do things better, and that's not in like a egotistical way of being the best. I think that's just in the sense of how can you take something and change it to make it work in a better way. And that's something for me that I've always done. Like even with websites, how can I do that site better? How can I improve it? How can I make that? And that constant sort of pursuit for making things better, I think has been so important. Something actually that's come up, I'd say in like the last 5 years, when I got to a point of like having this level of influence, you might say, within certain spheres, is this vision. Actually, how can I help people who are maybe a step behind me or a few steps behind, whatever it might be, to make their journey easier or better? And that's something that it has now become a big part of my life. Yes, I'm running the company, and yes, I'm doing that, and that's important. But also, I think we often forget the fact there is somebody somewhere out there who is worse off than you, or hasn't got that experience, or hasn't got something, whatever it might be, and you can always do something to support that. And so for me, that's also like another personal vision and mission for me, is how can I do more of that? How can I make what I'm doing day to day and then translate it to help other people, even outside of that company context?
Yeah, that's ace. Okay, Ben, this is already such gold that you're sharing here, and fascinating to hear your experience and your learnings. Thinking about vision into realities, that as a whole area, because people can have lots of ideas, but until there's a plan, it's just talk, isn't it? So I just wondered, how did you? Multiple times you've done this now. You've had an idea, you had a vision, but you brought it into reality. Talk us through some of the steps of how you've done that.
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest. So I'm quite a quick mover in regards to how I do. You get like some people are like perfectionists who will sit there and spend ages working it. I'm the opposite, where I'm like, let's get it done. It's better done than not finished. I'm saying, let's get it moving. And so for me, when it comes to taking that vision and making it happen, I think it's then sitting down and planning it. For somebody maybe on this call who's looking to start a company, I recommend something called a business model canvas, which is just like a one-page thing where you can just plan out every single key part of your company and just put it all down, and just helps you give that top-line overview, just to think about all the different areas, from people to finances to challenges to opportunities to all the different areas. And so for me, whenever I have like a vision or something I want to achieve, it's then always like, okay, how I just as quickly as possible get it down on paper and get it down from my mind in a written format to then work out, is it possible? How can that work, and logistically? And then often then spend a lot of time thinking, but also I think it's so easy to get lost in your own thoughts. And that's why I put it down onto this page, onto this actual document, as then helps me structure it, and I can then refer back to it and build out from that.
Business model canvas, is that a resource, that is it a template, or is that just what you call it? It could just be a blank piece of paper.
So it's a template. It's one available online. I think it's built by Strategizer. It's completely free. Like, you just Google it and it's all online as a PDF. But it's basically just an A3 piece of paper, but it's just got blocks that if you were to fill out every single part of that block, you would like to hope that 90% of your company has got a plan or got thought behind it, which I think is so important when you're first starting out, because you can easily miss things. And so that for me has been a tool that I've opened up time and time again, just to take that vision and just make it a reality. And it's everything from, what regulation are you going to have to overcome to start this, to what people do you need? How do you get sales? What's your revenue? What's going to be the biggest challenge? What's the market like? And if you can answer all of those things, then I'd say you're in a position to then take that vision and make it reality. If there's some parts in there where you can't answer, then obviously seek advice, seek support, get mentors around you to help you. And then if you still can't answer it, and maybe that vision's not right, or maybe you need to slightly adapt your thinking to make it work. Because if you can't think about how you're going to make your vision sustainable, then it can be an amazing vision, but if it's not sustainable, then is it worth the energy setting up if you can't then sustain it?
Yeah. Thinking about ceilings to growth, you've grown companies, and I'm sure at different points you might have hit growth barriers, and I wondered whether you've encountered that, and how have you navigated those growth barriers and worked through that to release further growth?
Yeah, I think for me, it's quite weird. So I'd say the biggest limitation, but also the biggest positive part of both my last companies and this company is people. People are the biggest pain you can have in a company, but also the greatest asset. And for me, that has always been something which has been so important for the growth. And I think whenever we reach this sort of growth ceiling, this point of now we need to change, now we need to think about something new, I'd say most of the time it is in my head we need to bring somebody in to look at this in a new way, we need to bring somebody in to address this in a new way, or to come in with a new level of experience and approach that. And it's hard, especially like your first hire is ridiculously hard, because who do you take? How do you do it? And then you then have to start like giving part of your baby away, like in a way you have to, like, people are doing work on your like passion, and you get really protective because you're like, oh my word, like no, don't do it like that, do it like this. And that's a process to go through, but it's a process you have to go through to grow. I think that's one thing. The second thing I would say is, as you say, it's down to when it comes to how you position the business. And you always have to spend time as a founder just stepping away and just thinking about how you're being positioned. Like Tahora, it must have repositioned it about 3 or 4 times, and we're about to do it all again, about to relaunch the whole site, because you always have to be adapting. You're learning every single day, and that's so important. And you will reach a growth ceiling or reach a point of pause or not able to move forward if you stop reflecting, stop thinking, stop planning. Because by the second you spend time just get lost in a day-to-day, you then are not able to think about how to stay different or how to approach things in a new way, how to grow the company. You just get lost in the admin and the emails.
Working with people as on team, but also customer base, and there's so many different levels of communication. Thinking of that as a sort of a new section to look at. What have you learned about communication?
Yeah, I think communication has been an interesting one for me, because I just love to talk, and typically I would just say what's on my mind. And I've learned the hard way, having people working for you, but sometimes you can't always say that, or sometimes you have to be careful how you say that. I've had times where you'd have a customer call you up who maybe wasn't too satisfied, and I'd be out of that project. Like I wouldn't have been there day to day, but it would then come to my desk, and they'd come maybe calling me to discuss that. And there are things you want to say to them, but you just have to learn not to. And it's always a strange dynamic. I would say for me, a thing about communication that's become so important in what I do has been just keeping it simple and keeping it easy to understand. It's very, very easy to overcomplicate it. And especially with my mind, I'm always thinking, there's always something else churning on about it. Like even like right now, like my call before this, we were talking about how can we take data on the app and start to use how someone uses our app to like clinically diagnose potentially mental health challenges and so on. And like, even though I'm talking on here, I know my brain's ticking away thinking about that somewhere in the background. And so when it comes to me with communication, it's always being, how can you park what's going on there and just talk about what you need to talk about and keep it super clear and not let it get lost in everything else that's moving around in your head. which especially as the company grows, you start to have so many conversations, both internally and externally. I mean, I could be on a call and then suddenly go and chat to a couple of team members and go on to another call and then chat to a few more team members and then go to a client call. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because communication then becomes such an important thing to every day think about. How can I communicate in a clear, concise way that's easy to understand, but also easy to believe in and get behind?
I think there's some great lessons there for people in my world, my profession, thinking about communicating the gospel, but also just for us as Christians. But I just wondered, do you have any particular lessons from the business environment for communicating and sharing the good news, the best news that there is? Really, just wondered, have you got any learnings or tips from the business environment that you've picked up that might help us communicate effectively and creatively?
The biggest thing that I've actually sort of learned, and is been that everybody comes into a room with a different backstory. You don't know what's happened to that person today, or say room virtually now, but you don't know about what that person's happened. You don't know that this morning they might have been subject to domestic abuse. You don't know that last night something might have happened in their family that is really hard hitting. You don't know if their financial situation. You don't know. There's so many variables in which you don't know their upbringing. There's so many possibilities for people to be in a different mindset, even just if they didn't sleep well. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when it comes to the communication side of things, I always think of it like a funnel. And when I'm doing like conference speaking, about business, I always think of it like this funnel of, you need to grab everyone's attention and bring them along that journey. You can't suddenly jump in and go straight to the intense stuff. It's like, imagine preaching a message and going straight in and going, open the Bible straight away and going, right, we're starting here and we're going straight in on the intense part here. You have to go on that journey, and that's not because you're trying to fluff it out or you're trying to make it feel like it's lacking sort of hard facts or hard sort of the core part. It's just that everybody needs to be aligned for you to communicate clearly and to get them onto the page that you want them to be. And so I always think of it like this funnel of, how can you bring people to where you want to be? What can you say as your first thing in any form of communication that gets people to go, oh, that resonates with me? And suddenly now they're for, and then you start to bring it in. And by the end of it, by however long you've been talking for, whatever form of communication it is, they're all on your page. They're all believing in what you're saying. No matter what you're saying, they're all believing it because you've taken them on that journey and you haven't just jumped straight to the last page.
Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, thinking about team, and you work with teams for years now. Just what do you look for when in an employee as you're building team and as you get building up the team? What are you looking for?
So for me, I think obviously there's the first part, which is be able to do the job. That's forgetting that part. That's the fundamental part. But I would also, beyond that, character is so important to me. I think culture is such an important part of a good team, and whether that be a team in business or that be a team at church, the culture which you build within that team is what keeps people. What keeps people motivated. It keeps them engaged, keeps them wanting to do more and more and more. And if you're part of something which you don't really engage with, even in that church setting, yes, you love God, yes, you believe in and all that, but if the team you're serving in, you don't feel like you're a part of, you don't feel like you're connecting or it's culturally right for you, then you struggle to really give it your all. And so it's so important when it comes to building teams to really think about that culture a lot. And that's why you get great business leaders are so culture and people focused. So for me, when I'm recruiting, the big thing that we really look for is people who don't get too hung up on a job description in regards to, no, that's not my role. My role is this. But I'm just there to say, you know what, I'm here to do the best everything I can. Yes, I've got the skills to do that, but I'd love to learn. I love to be challenged. I love to be progressing. And that's a mindset which is so important for me when it looks to recruiting that team. Another really big part, which I'd say is something I look for, is somebody who's, when you speak to them, you remember. So when you're doing like job interviews, I've been days I've done one after another, just constantly. And I always am like, okay, when I'm having my dinner, when I'm in bed going to sleep, if there was a name or an interview that comes up today, I'm like, oh, that was a really interesting chat, or that was a really interesting conversation. That is like my gut saying there's something interesting there.
Mm. That's ace. And you mentioned about culture. How do you develop the culture that you want to see in your own organization? How do you do that?
First of all, you have to believe it and be doing it. So you can't say, really, really basic example, we're all going to go out for a nice group walk every Friday and not go yourself. Like, you have to be living and breathing that culture to make it happen. I think how you define that and how you create that is very much like a personal preference or personal choice, and that's what makes leaders different and so on. But the concept of, I want to invest in the culture of my team, and what that means in reality, if you want me to really break that down, is the family that you're creating. It's that sense of belonging, that sense of coming to work and now feeling like I'm not just doing my job, I'm coming to work and I feel like I'm actually making a difference. I feel like I'm part of a team. I'm not just on my own, just delivering a project. And for me, that's the most important thing when it comes to culture. And for some people, it works in different ways. For good example, developers, their sort of ideal culture would be that every day I have a call with them at 9 a.m. and we go through today's plan and what we're going to be delivering. And that's because that's how developers work. And that's the culture that they want to be a part of, where they know what they're doing and they just deliver it. Whereas if I did the same for like people in my marketing team, they'd just be like, whoa, this is micromanagement. You're calling me every day, asking what I'm going to be doing today and what I did yesterday. That's just too much. So you then have to be adaptive depending on what people want and be able to work to that. And I think the key thing is about unlocking potential and productivity from people by producing a culture which works for different people in different environments. So developers, they love to be in a position where they feel like they've got that support all the time. So you give them that. Someone who's more creative maybe wants to have the free reins to a certain extent. So you have to give them that as well.
I love this. It's so good, Ben. I'm just thinking about leadership. You will have learned so much about leadership, and you're leading brilliantly of things that you've founded and you've set up. And just wondered, people will be listening to this in different sectors, and what are the questions that maybe you're asking broadly, and maybe that other leaders should be asking themselves right now, given the change, given the year that we've had?
I'd say for me, a big thing about leadership is listening and really just doing that. So I've made it my mission to go, okay, given all that's going on, I need to speak to every single person of the team on a one-to-one basis every week or every fortnight. But I need to make that such a priority, because people right now are going through so much. And as a leader, you need to be able to support them. And if you're not, then they feel like they're being that. I think they don't feel like they're then being part of this community, of this culture which we're trying to create. So for me, it's so important when it comes to leadership. So I've made it my mission. I can't do it every week because of the number now, but like I'm saying, every 2 weeks, I'm gonna put it on the phone. I'm gonna go for a walk. Like a day like today, it's nice and sunny. I'll go outside. I'll put on my headphones. And I'll just walk and call people and just find out how they're doing. Not chat about how's work, but just say, how are things? How are you finding lockdown? What can we do to help you? What can we do to make your experience at work better? And just by asking those open-ended questions, I think is so important as a leader. If a really good example, a really good friend of mine, he runs one of the major sort of competitor banks in the UK, and he struggled with that. He struggled to have one-to-ones with employees and chat, and he was telling me, I think about a month or so ago, that it produced this real toxic environment within the core leadership and within the thing where they didn't feel like they know him. They didn't feel like they had that relationship with him to go to if they're feeling bad. And I think it's now more than ever, as a leader, you need to be doing that. And it's something that I made a mission. I've literally said to myself, I'm going to carve out time every single Friday afternoon to do that. So my Friday afternoon, after this, having lunch, and then straight on to an afternoon of calls with the team. And I've made it my mission of that's when I'm going to do it, and I'm going to carve it out and make that a priority for me. And I think it also shows with your teams as a leader that it is an important thing. It is something that, for me, the people are a priority, and I'm going to make that part of my schedule.
And it's an investment in them as individuals, but it's also an investment in a company, because if everyone's feeling like they're connected and listened to, then that can only help the vision and mission of your organization as well.
It's interesting you
Yeah.
mentioned that, because when I first had staff like leave the company, I take it so personally. Like, I really feel so down. I'd like call out some advisors, like there's someone called Alison, who's one of my sort of advisors who I must have met when I was like 13, 14 years old at this award ceremony in London. And she's like a mother to me in business. And she's sort of retirement age, but she's still running a company. She's still really doing well in that business. And she just got an MBE actually a few weeks ago. But she's someone who I can just call up and be like, Alison, like, what's happening? Like, they want to leave, but it's hit me personally. What the heck? It just doesn't feel right. And she'd just sit me down, and the best piece of advice she always said to me: when someone leaves your team, just think about it. You've now got a friend in a new company. And that advice became so important to me. So, like, obvious example, let's say someone left our team and went to Google. Very blunt, but just for this explanation, I can now say, oh, I've now got a friend at Google. And you can then, if you think of it like that, and you think of, you haven't lost someone, your friend's just now, done something else. When you have that mindset of realizing it in that way, I think you then look beyond, should I invest too much into that person before they leave? Because I think actually, if you don't invest enough into a person, they will leave. So you can't win. You can't use the argument of not investing and taking time to call your team if you think, oh, when they leave, it's a waste of time. Because they'll leave either way if you don't give them that. So I think that's where it's down to, just that mindset of when someone leaves your team, it's not a problem. You just have to work with it.
And that's great leadership, Ben, as well. Just that will transform people's experience of leadership. So if they do move, or wherever they find themselves, that's such a great bar that they will not then imitate in their own leadership, but also then expect in other places as well, which is a great culture that you've cultivated. Okay, just final question, and then I think there's a question that's come in on the chat, but just one mistake that you've made that you've learned from, what would it be?
I'd say it was in the first company, and it was just frantically chasing sales and revenue too much. And it would be like, so when we're doing marketing, you'd come to me and be like, I've got a marketing project, like, yes, we'll do it. And I'll grab it, and it doesn't matter, we'll make it happen, because we're just like so frantic for sales. And in fact, the way I overcame it, so my sort of right-hand man in the company, he'd be a very senior in sort of a consultancy space. And he was telling me about when he was consulting at BT. And BT got rid of about 30-40% of their clients, must have been about 20 years ago now. And they actually became more profitable by getting rid of these clients, because these are clients which were weighing them down, extensive resources were required to service them, and they just were not profitable for whatever reason. And actually, by getting rid of clients, BT as an organization became better and more powerful and stronger and so on. And he was telling me that, and he was like, you need to remember that you can't say yes to everything. You need to align it. When someone comes in as a project, yes, the revenue is good and you need the sales, but also this is a massive implication on the team. This is a big thing that's going to be part of your company DNA for the next month, because you're working on this big campaign. You need to always think about that at the same time. And I think that's not in like an arrogant way of we're the best, we only work the best. That's in a way of, if we're going to get behind your marketing campaign and really put 100% of our effort and energy and excitement and passion into that, then we need to also believe in what you're doing and not just be doing it because it's money. And I think that's so important. And also a secondary point, like part B, what I almost linked on there about not saying yes to everything, but also applies in other contexts. And I think when you're starting, is quite, I said yes to loads of things when I was first starting out. And if I wouldn't have said yes to all those things, I think that I wouldn't be where I am today, because I'd say yes to go into an event, and then suddenly I'd meet someone, and then after meeting back someone, I'd then suddenly be in a situation which I was like, this is crazy. I'll give you a good example. I was asked to just attend an event at BT, actually, it was quite funny, about digital skills. And I was a bit like, I don't see the value, why I should do it. I said, yes, I'll give it a go. I went along. I then met the Royal Secretary to the UK Royal Family, and then got appointed a Royal Advisor to follow meeting this person at this random event. And what I'm trying to, I think, get to that is, you have to go with your gut about saying yes to certain things, because opportunity comes by you embracing it and saying yes. But you also need to be prepared, and it's almost like going back to my words to a certain extent, but you're prepared to say no to other things as well. And you have to really have that gut instinct to go, is this going to benefit me? Is going to this event or doing this thing going to help in a certain way? Or is it just something completely random but isn't worth the time, or I could invest that time better in another way?
Yeah. This is fascinating. Hey, Ben, there's a question that's come in, and this is from Hannah. She says, which is better, passion and then action, then working out how to make it a business, or having a passion, then working out how to make it an income generator before action? Does that, which is better?
I think it's massively a personal situation. If you have the finances, then I would say the first one, passion, action, and then work out how to make it into a business, because that's when you can. There's so many ways of commercializing a business now beyond someone who's directly paying you, and so I'd say if you have the financial stability to be able to do that and not worry massively about I need money right now to live or to do that sort of thing, then I'd say that is better, because you're then a lot more nimble, you're a lot more chasing and actioning. But at the same time, we have to have that reality check of not everyone's in that situation. And I was fortunate where when I started out my company, I was living at home. I was in my bedroom. I wasn't paying rent because I was like 11 or 12. So that was not a concern in regards to finances, not from I'm from a wealthy background, but just because I had the stability to be able to take the risk. And if I didn't get paid this month, it didn't matter, because food was still being put onto my table. So I could then think of it more of like sort of passion action side of things. But I think also it's that realization that you also need to make money. You can't run a company and not make money. You have to be able to support yourself and so on. And there's actually a statistic that more entrepreneurs earn less than minimum wage than above. If you were to really work out the amount of hours you put into running a company, growing it, and so on. So you also do have to really think about yourself. So I'm sorry, Hannah, I haven't really answered your question because it's such like a personal thing of your situation and which one it is. But yeah, I would just say if you can just action it and get a passion going and then worry about how to commercialize it later, then I'd definitely say that. But also it's not wrong to the other way. There's not a right or wrong answer, I'd say.
Ben, that is absolutely wonderful. It's been brilliant to spend some time with you. Where could people find you and or connect with you online?
Yeah, or there's other different social platforms and so on. Obviously, as I know people, I'm on them. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anybody who'd love to reach out and chat. I'm always there. So yeah, I'd love that.
And Tahora.com.
So Tahora.com, yeah, is the company. Yeah, I'd love people to check it out. And even if you've got any thoughts or ideas or anything, yeah, love to hear from anyone about that.
Fantastic. Ben, we're really grateful to you. Thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And what are you up to the rest of the day? You mentioned you got some calls later.
Yes, I've got rest of the days, all team calls. We have a planning meeting, also looking at the development schedule for next week. So we're doing that sprints. We plan out what's going to be built by a tech team, and also have a sales pitch as well. So mainly all internal though, which is quite nice to sort of see through the Fridays as well. But I just enjoy it. I love hearing the stories of what people have been up to in the week. And I think for me that I feel it's with like this sort of, it actually motivates me. So often since doing this Friday evenings, I've now worked more than instead of just sitting at home, because I've now been like, I feel motivated from our own team. And I think, I really always enjoy a Friday.
Ben, brilliant stuff. Enjoy your day, and looking forward to connecting with you again sometime.
Thank you. You too. See you.
Thanks, Ben. Cheers. Bye.